Hey everybody, Reef Girl here. I thought I'd show you my remote water change. And to prevent the problems I had last time I did a remote water change, the UV sterilizer is getting turned off. The skimmer is off, and the ATO is off. So now those three things are turned off, I can switch over to the other side of the sump. When it's time for a water change, I draw the water from the center section of the sump using this Cobalt EXT inline pump. It gets dropped down into the water and pushed to the bottom. The drain hose exits the back of the cabinet and goes along the wall and goes directly to the drain in the basement. Next up is to put the return pump on feed mode to stop the flow to the upper tank and allow the water to settle down in the sump. We simply put it on feed mode, and then in order to prevent a siphon and having more water in the sump than I want, I simply lift up the random flow generator so that it's right out of the water. And once all of the water from the pipes and the upper tank overflow settles down into the sump, we can now turn on the Cobalt to start pumping water out of the center section of the sump. And here's the Cobalt doing its job. It takes roughly 30 seconds to pump 1 gallon of water using this little pump. You can see there's water movement here, and that's because the algae scrubber pump is left on, and it's the drain that you see that's moving water. I know the algae scrubber pump won't run dry because I'm still only taking 10 gallons of water and it will remain submerged. When I get close to the 10 gallons, I turn off the Cobalt pump, and the siphon will take care of the rest until it runs dry. So I have my 10 gallons of water removed, and I hang the Cobalt back up here where it's out of the way and yet still readily available when I need it. The original plan was to mount the Cobalt pump on the floor of the sump with suction cups and attach a drain hose. That way we could get down to within a ½ inch of water if we needed to. However, we could not avoid a siphon and decided to keep it here instead. And next, I simply use the switch in the drawer to turn on the saltwater pump that's in the basement, and the saltwater comes back into the center area. You'll recall the return pump is on feed mode, so I've restarted feed mode because at this point, generally about 10 minutes has passed. The saltwater is still coming into the center section of the sump, and it's getting very close to where I need to turn off the saltwater pump. Okay, that's the siphon breaking. Now I simply disengage feed mode on the return pump so the water can start flowing back up to the main tank. Then I have to put the random flow generator back into the water so I don't end up with water all over my room. It has happened, and oh, it makes a mess, let me tell you. So that's ready to go. And at this point, the water level in the return chamber starts going down because of course it's being pumped back up into the main tank. Pretty soon it'll be pretty near the operating level, slightly above. And that gurgling sound is the water starting to rush back down the overflow and into the sump again. Over here you can see there is water movement, and that's coming from the overflow supplying water back down into the sump. To finish it off, I turn the UV sterilizer back on and the skimmer back on. However, I leave the ATO off until I'm sure the water level has normalized. Otherwise, I just get the alarm. So that's looking good. So there you have it. This is going to make it much more likely that I'll do regular water changes because it's so quick and easy. So I'll leave you with this short clip of my clownfish. I think they're trying to host the closed-up toadstool. They've done this a few times lately in the evening. This thing is open wide during the day, so they don't bother with it, but at night it looks like they're defending it, and that brave little Molly is not going to come out ahead in this game. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and hey, maybe this will give somebody some ideas about how they can make their own reefing life easier.